Hello.
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 So,
Sorry.
so, everybody, please make sure you mute your microphones, and we'll get started very shortly. We're just giving the latecomers here a little bit of a. We are in the accessibility community where sometimes those with accessible needs need a little more time to get themselves situated. All right, 12:05, as promised. Hi, my name is Aaron, and I am an accessible travel specialist. I will get into this momentarily about my experience. Um, this was to be presented with my colleague Josh Werner, who lives in Connecticut. Unfortunately, Josh couldn't be with us today. He had a bit of a health emergency he had to take care of. So I'm going to be reading my slides as well as his slides. So I'm going to adapt to that as best I can. Um, So again, my name is Aaron. I am a seasoned accessible travel specialist with over 4 years of industry expertise, coupled with a rich 20-year perspective of firsthand disability experience. This on the left is my colleague Josh. He lives in Connecticut. He has a disability called osteogenesis imperfecta, and he has been across continents. He was born in South Africa. He's been to Scotland. He's travels with a power wheelchair and a service dog, and has explored countries like England, Germany, Ireland, as well as Canada. And he has extensive travel experience in the United States. So here's what this virtual webinar is going to consist of. One, the planning stage. Two, the booking stage. Three, the traveling stage. And at the end, we're going to have a Q&A forum. So what this means is basically step one, we're going to talk about the planning process when it comes to accessible travel. Number two, the booking process. This is after you've kind of planned everything and you're in the process of going online or calling a travel agent or going on to Expedia and making the booking. Number three is when you travel. This is when it's come time to go to the airport and and get everything underway. And number four, make sure you take notes. Grab your phone, grab your laptop, Alt tab on your computer. Take notes as necessary. If you have questions, we will handle those at the end of the webinar. Um, for the purpose of the we will have some scenarios that we're going to be going through as well. So in those circumstances, I will advise everybody that they can unmute their microphones and uh, and share some ideas. So, given the breadth of accessible travel, we plan to condense this topic into a 90-minute presentation and focusing on the most common challenges that individuals face. First off, we're not going to know everything. This presentation will be a broad overview of the accessible travel process, but we've reserved time at the end for a Q&A to address your more specific questions. And number two, we can't eliminate the problem. We all have stories, we all have legitimate grievances. I'm sure if you've traveled on an airplane, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We won't solve every problem, but we'll provide information that will really help reduce the issues. This is who we have on our A to Z team. Myself, Josh, Chase, who is involved in editorial, Jeff, who is our one of our onboarding travel consultants, Paisley and Noah, are advisors for our travel sections. So let's start with the planning stage. One, we want to determine our travel goals. So you want to ask yourself the important questions. What am I looking to achieve? Relaxation, adventure, cultural experiences, personal growth. What skills am I interested in learning? Number two, when am I interested in traveling? When is the best time to visit my destination? Who do I want to travel with? Number three, can I take part in any activities that are wheelchair accessible? Websites like Viator and TripAdvisor can help you with this. Number four, have I assessed the accessibility both at and near my accommodations? Can I function independently at my destination? And number five, do I have preferences to any specific types of cuisine? Are you lactose intolerant, gluten free? Do you need soy alternatives? Things like that. Um, Pro tip, in 2017, Google Maps rolled out a feature turned off by default, and it's called Accessible Places. This can be accessed on your Android or iPhone by clicking on your profile picture in Google Maps, selecting settings, then accessibility settings, and my Google just turned on. Google's listening, and then turning on accessible places. Now, before we get started, let's go into a scenario. So this is what I was referring to previously. We're going to go into scenarios, and then we'll open up the floor to just answer quickly general questions. Not general questions about what I went over previously, but questions that pertain to the scenario. If I called a hotel and said, now this would technically be Josh speaking, but I'm reading for him today. Hi, my name is Aaron Bush. I need a room for a 2-night stay and I use a wheelchair. Can you handle this? Now, based on that question, can you identify anything specifically wrong with this approach based on the information I provided? Go ahead, and if you have any ideas, share your comments in the chat box. We'll give it a few seconds. Again, the question is, hi, my name is Aaron Bush. I need a room for 2 night stay, and I also use a wheelchair. That's all the information I'm giving to people. One, it's too general. Yeah. Anybody else? Another person, yes, too general. I always need to ask specifically for a roll and shower. So yeah, we've got some ideas for what people do when they're uh, what people will do when they're calling a hotel to ensure their accommodations are in place. So international travel will not be ADA compliant. Now, if we use the United States as an example, I'm based in Vancouver, but Josh is based in Connecticut. Americans are not protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act. In Canada, we don't have the Americans with Disabilities Act. We've all lived through the challenges in the absence of ADA compliance. If you've been to the United States, you will undoubtedly see that they have a lot more accessibility standards. If you rely on public transport, trains, buses, ferries, taxis, Uber, Lyft, specialized coaches, ask if they provide a ramp or lift and ensure stations and vehicles are step free for accessibility. Number two, verify who you're talking to. Always get the name of the person you're speaking with and ensure they leave remarks about your conversation. There's nothing worse than promises disappearing after a call ends. Jot down their name, the time, and contact info, and this creates a paper trail and reinforces who you spoke to and when, just in case you need proof later. As a bonus tip, you can also search for disability organizations in your destination city and contact them for local accessibility insights. They may not specialize in tourism, but they can provide valuable information on accessibility. All right, we got another scenario here. As you can see on your slide, we've got an itinerary from Alaska Airlines. You're traveling from Seattle, Washington to Phoenix, Arizona. This isn't necessarily a bad itinerary for the average traveler, but it does have some significant conflicts when traveling with a mobility device. Can you identify them? So just take a look at this itinerary, guys, and I want you to, in your own experience traveling on an airplane, just share what your first thoughts are with the challenges of this itinerary.
I can talk a lot faster than I can type. A 1 hour layover can be a real challenge if you need to change planes.
Yep. Yeah, a 1 hour layover is definitely short. The how time is too less. I think that's referring to the same thing. The halt time. Oh, the layover time. Yes, the layover time is too short. Can you identify anything else, guys? There are four things to be in this itinerary. Average leg room. That depends. That depends how on. Yes, there are certain circumstances where, um, especially if you have like a fused leg, that could be a problem. All right, let's go over the identities. One, you've got an early departure. For domestic flights, the itinerary requires you to be at the SeaTac airport by no later than 5:35 a.m. You cannot depend on Uber, Lyft, taxis, etc. This choice would be better if you live in or near Seattle, if you have reliable transportation to Seattle, or you can book a hotel within walking distance to the SeaTac airport. Number two, you've got a short layover, 1 hour and 4 minutes. When traveling with a mobility device, you'll be the first to board in Seattle, but the last to deploy in Boise. You would be making a mad dash in Idaho, and that is assuming there are no delays upon taking off or landing at the Boise airport. Number three, this is a big one. You've got a smaller aircraft. An Embraer 175 allows a maximum of 35 inches in height for cargo clearance, which is ridiculously small for your average electric wheelchair. Airlines may opt to rebook the passenger on the next best flight or tip and store the mobility device on its side. This will increase the probability of damage. And number four, Seattle offers nonstop flights to Phoenix. What are you doing? Layovers significantly add to the risk of potential damage to your mobility device. While a nonstop ticket might cost you $200 more, you are minimizing the risk for costly repairs, undue hardship, and most importantly, paying for peace of mind. Here's how you can plan the best itinerary. I'll move this over again. Finding the best flight itinerary. What are some of the most common challenges we face when booking a flight? Any ideas here? Go ahead and share your thoughts in chat again. I'm just curious. When you're booking a flight itinerary, what are your most common challenges? We'll just give this a little time for people to share some comments too. Cost over convenience. Yes. Some I mean, if you're paying $1,500 for a flight and you can get a cheaper flight for $700, I mean, it's a risk, but it's half the price. So I can see how that would be beneficial. Anybody else have any thoughts they want to share? All right. So, which airlines can you trust? In the United States, airlines must follow the extensive guidelines of the Air Carrier Access Act. This is set by the Department of Transportation. So Canada has different policies that are set. They don't follow the Air Carrier Access Act. To ensure accessibility for passengers with disabilities, but each airline's policies can differ. You can dive into blog posts and YouTube videos from wheelchair travelers for firsthand experiences and tap into Facebook and Reddit to find the most reliable suppliers. Not a note about nonstop flights and unnecessary connections. You might be thinking, well, why splurge on a nonstop flight instead of saving by transferring in Boise? Because your travel clock starts the moment you reach the airport, and if you have only 64 minutes to transfer in Boise, any delays you have in Seattle, mid-flight hiccups, and extra time to deplaning will disrupt your schedule, and the airline will not wait for you. Additionally, handing your mobility device to 4 ramp agents instead of 2 doubles the chances of damage. Unless you enjoy taking risks, choose nonstop flights, or if you must transfer, give yourself plenty of buffer time. For the planning stage, finding the best flight itinerary. So let's look at this Seattle itinerary a little more closely and identify the best practices when booking a flight. First off, how big is the aircraft? Foldable wheelchairs may be able to get stored in the passenger cabin, but powered mobility devices are reliant on the respective height of the cargo door. Your problematic aircrafts will be the Boeing 717, the 737, which is a big one, Airbus 220, Embraers, which is another big one, and regional jets, CRJs, which tend to fly out from smaller airports. These planes measure in at less than 35 inches. The aircraft will typically be listed on the itinerary. And number 2, you have flights that are often marked as delayed. You might not find this information on platforms like Expedia, FlightHub, etc., but by cross-referencing the flight number, example DL120, on Google Flights, you can identify if there are any known trends and delays with the route you plan on booking. Here's an example of a delayed flight with Air Canada. So we have Air Canada. It's a Boeing 737 MAX. So we know that the height of the wheelchair will need to be less than 35 inches. It is a AC 120, and it's marked. It will be marked on Google Flights that it is often delayed by 30 plus minutes. If you see this when you're booking your airplane and you only got an hour to transfer, don't do it. Additional flight considerations. Never leave without travel insurance. So Josh has a disability called osteogenesis imperfecta. And in the OI community, a rough transfer, a sudden sneeze, a hidden pothole, or a simple misstep could lead to a medical emergency. So ensure that your insurance covers pre-existing conditions when you're traveling out of BC or out of state or abroad. This advice is vital for all individuals with disabilities, and protection and preparedness are key. Not all insurance companies will cover pre-existing conditions. If you book travel insurance and they don't cover pre-existing conditions and you run into an emergency, you may not be covered. Josh also travels with a service animal, and service animals will typically require a clean bill of health from a registered veterinarian when you're traveling outside of the United States or outside of Canada. for that matter. This is in place to prevent the transmission of communicable diseases such as rabies or Lyme disease. Domestically, you are only tied to the policies set in place by each individual airline. Confirm this information with the airline before you book to ensure that their policies aren't overly complex. And a note about low-cost carriers. There are low-cost carriers. Some of the big ones in the U.S. are Spirit Airlines, JetBlue, and Allegiant Airlines. They must still abide by the Air Carrier Access Act, but their policies and onboard services may be more limited. You may be required to pay extra for your seating assignments or baggage. You may also encounter greater challenges in resolving potential issues with these airlines. Whoops. So we went into the height of the cargo door on some of the aircrafts. Now, we said that you need to lower the height of your wheelchair below the 35-inch mark, depending on the height of the aircraft. Since not all aircrafts will have, some aircrafts will be larger than 35 inches for their cargo door. If the aircraft is less than 35 inches, you don't need to have to settle for a manual wheelchair that makes you dependent on others or uncomfortable with an old backup. You don't need to wait until your date of departure to find out if your mobility device will fit on a Boeing 737 or an Embraer. All you need to do is measure your device's height without removable parts like the headrests or armrests. You can take those off. Some devices, like a Permobil, have a latch for easy backrest removal and reattachment. Check if the backrest handles can be lowered or removed with an Allen wrench. Adjust the backrest to fit within the 35-inch limit. Keep in mind, power tilt might lower the backrest, but raise the armrest and the joystick. Ensure the device is level when measuring. For adjustments requiring an Allen wrench, consider hiring a professional, or if you must do it yourself, take photos before making changes. Don't settle for less and be prepared. Be prepared and be comfortable. Number 2, advanced seat selection. Know that many airlines have a disability desk, which you can call in advance to request a seat in the bulkhead to ease with the boarding and deplaning process. There is no fee for requesting a bulkhead seat. This is a quick scenario, guys. Let's imagine for step 3 that you want to book a trip to Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. Does anybody know what the name of the transportation provider in Orlando is that would provide you with the transportation to make the commute from the airport to the Walt Disney World property? They're a big one. I'll give it 10 seconds. All right. They're called Mears Connect. Requesting a wheelchair accessible shuttle from the airport is largely the same in most major cities, especially in Canada and the United States. If you're traveling internationally, you will want to conduct diligent research to identify the most reputable transportation providers in the area. Call them in advance to verify if your mobility device can be loaded on board the vehicle. You need to be very meticulous about this, as some providers may think the wheelchair is to be loaded with the luggage and that the traveler can climb up a couple of steps. That's not the case for everybody. Do not assume that every city will have accessible transportation readily available. In our Orlando example, you can request a shuttle either on the day of travel or the day before. However, not all policies are the same, and some providers may require at least 24 to 48 hours advance notice. Reservations vary from each transportation provider, but can typically be made days, weeks, if not months in advance. Verifying resort accessibility. Your first step when booking a hotel is assessing the accessibility of the property. Online photos can be misleading, so always call the hotel directly to confirm this information. Booking through sites like Expedia or Travelocity usually secures a room category, not a specific room. You can request specific preferences such as proximity to the elevator or public amenities, but remember that they may not be guaranteed. So, what can you do? One, you can check the official website. Many suppliers position their accessible rooms in locations that are paradoxically quite inaccessible. You may need to do some digging. Some suppliers offer photos of these rooms, others merely mention their availability through brief text descriptions. Number two, you can check TripAdvisor, YouTube, or Google. For popular resorts like Walt Disney World, YouTube videos and TripAdvisor reviews with photos are invaluable. Start with TripAdvisor, YouTube, Google Maps, Street View, and the Google business page for detailed insights. Number three, the internet is full of answers. If you need more information, join Facebook groups, Reddit communities, and forums dedicated to accessible travel. These platforms are great for connecting with other travelers who can offer insights and personalized recommendations. Number four, talk to a travel agent specializing in accessible travel. Accessible travel agents bring specialized expertise and a deep understanding of the needs of travelers with disabilities. This translates into effective advocacy and tailored solutions. While many agents strive to meet diverse needs, those specializing in accessible travel offer insights and accommodations that others might miss. Number five, contact a disability organization. Depending on where you are traveling to, try reaching out to one of the area's local disability organizations. They might have insights for trusted sources they can recommend. Number six, reach out to the supplier directly. If you've exhausted all other alternatives, try reaching out to the supplier directly, by which I mean the front desk or the front desk supervisor. You may be able to receive additional guidance or clarity that will bring you peace of mind. And lastly, try researching the building's architect. Now, this might be a real moonshot, but if the building was just recently completed, you might try researching the architect that built it to see if they have anything shown in their public portfolio. For cruises, research the port accessibility. Certain ports might not be wheelchair friendly, especially if tendering is required. Before booking, check if your ports of call offer sufficient wheelchair accessible excursions. These are usually labeled as A, remain in your wheelchair, B, must transfer, C, must climb steps, or D, is inaccessible. Consider equipment rentals. Whether you require portable lifts, recliners, respiratory support, manual or power wheelchairs, or a hospital bed, there are services like Special Needs at Sea who will deliver these straight to your stateroom. Assess the accessibility of the cruise. Thoroughly research your itinerary, including the supplier, stateroom, ports of call, amenities, onboarding and offloading procedures, emergency procedures, and any international mandates. Be aware that older vessels may have narrow corridors, which can be problematic when accessing your stateroom during housekeeping. And lastly, accessibility of transportation to and from the terminal. Cruise terminals are often far from the airports. Ensure that you have accessible transportation options from the airport to the terminal and back before booking to avoid last-minute issues. For van rentals, rental companies will charge by 24-hour increments. You need to be meticulous about this. If your pickup time is 11 a.m. on May 23rd and you're expected to return it at 11 a.m. on May 25th, it must be returned at or before that time. Can't be returned at 11:05 a.m. Can't be returned at 11:03 a.m. They are strict. Returning it at 1 p.m., for example, will incur an extra one-day fee. Your driver's license may only work in North America. You may be a world-class driver, but that card in your wallet is typically only valid in Canada, United States, and Mexico. You need to apply for an international license when you're traveling abroad. And number three, review the car rental policies prior to booking. Companies will expect you to pay for mileage, provide proof of insurance, pay for incurred damages, even gas up before returning the vehicle. They'll charge you double of what you would pay at the pump and may even ding you for damages incurred that wasn't your doing. You can get around this by inspecting the vehicle and taking lots of pictures. You will find plenty of companies on Google that offer adapted vehicles for rent. Just be mindful to do your research before proceeding with the booking. So, what's the difference between professional counsel and doing it yourself? Managing your own booking can be quite challenging. But doable. Some believe travel agents aren't the best resource for clients with mobility challenges, perhaps due to past experiences or a lack of disability awareness. As a result, travelers often choose to book it themselves online or directly with the airline. One, your travel agent still knows what they're doing. They're not working in an office the first day on the job. Your travel agent isn't an AI. At least they should be. If it's a human-to-human relationship, there are tons of travel agents out there who absolutely understand the ins and outs of the business. They'll work with you as well as the airline and the suppliers to ensure you are well cared for. They may just lack the perspective of traveling with a mobility device. You just need to be very precise in telling them what you need. What's more, there are travel agents that specialize in accessible travel who can advocate for your interests from a disability perspective. It can also save you time, money, and a few headaches. So, flight changes or cancellations, that's a problem, right? Yikes. So you can skip the 3-hour airline hold music marathon and hand it over to your travel agent. They'll juggle the logistics, find the best destinations, and uncover those secret perks that only they have access to. Let them deal with the drama while you kick back and relax and plan your next adventure. Your trip planning should be stress-free. That's what a travel agent does. They take the stress out of what you would be doing otherwise. The other thing is that travel agents have access to systems that you don't. They're generally what you have access to might be Expedia or Travelocity or TripAdvisor, Google Flights, the airlines directly. Travel agents have access to a lot more than that, and only they have access to those tools. You can't, excuse me, you can't sign up for those. So when a travel agent says, I can get you a better deal, they're not joking. But hey, okay, you still want to do it yourself. You're into the do-it-yourself travel booking vibe. I totally respect that. There's a unique charm to plotting your own course, right? There's the buzz of tailoring your own adventure, the adrenaline rush that comes from those last-minute wallet-thinning changes, and the serene moment when you realize it's all coming together. So what do you do if you're just like, Aaron, forget it. I'm not going through a travel agent. I can do this myself. I've done it before. I'm totally confident what I'm doing. Fine, no problem. Confirm everything. You confirm. I cannot stress that enough. Confirm. Ensure all the details on your itinerary are correct, including the travelers' names exactly as they appear on your passport, or you won't fly. Check that the passports are valid for at least 6 months beyond your return date. If you are traveling internationally and your passport expires in 2 months, they may not let you fly. Verify everything with your group before booking. If you have ensured all the details on your itinerary, talk to your friends and colleagues traveling with you and confirm with them too. Confirm the ticketing rules, the routes, the transportation, accommodations, dietary restrictions, and activities. Once you've made your payment, changes will be difficult. Number 2, contact the airline's disability desk. Most airlines have a dedicated disability desk which operates separately from central reservations. Travel platforms like Expedia, I like using Expedia as an example, are generally not equipped to address specific disability-related inquiries. They will still assist travelers with disabilities. They just don't have staff readily available that can handle those specific disability related questions. If you don't require pre-clearance, go ahead and book your flight. Afterwards, contact the airline's disability desk to confirm that your needs will be accommodated. The disability desk can also assist in reserving bulkhead seats for travelers with disabilities. The airline's disability desk is trained to handle questions and inquiries for travelers with disabilities. If you have an disability issue related to your flight, they will be the best to answer it. There's some additional information to be aware of if you are a parent that has an underage child traveling by themselves with a guardian or a person whom you trust. Number one, confirm the policies with the suppliers. Hotels or the airline may have policies in place when an underage child is traveling without both parents on board. This is especially true when traveling internationally. We get it. You want your child to have a good time, but perhaps mom can't schedule time off work. Accommodations can be made, but you need to confirm these with the airline and the hotel before you finalize the booking. How do you do this? You give your child a letter of consent. For international travel, when a minor is traveling with one parent, a guardian, or alone, ensure they have their full name as on the passport, their date of birth, their place of birth, and their passport details. Include their flight details, the name of the accompanying person, their destination address, and contact information. A signed consent letter from the non-traveling parents or guardians, possibly notarized, is required. Also have an unabridged birth certificate and copies of parents or guardians' IDs. Check with the airline and destination country for specific requirements to avoid complications. We have made it to the traveling stage. You are at this point now where you are commencing your trip. You're at the airport. As you prepare for your journey, it's important to ensure your mobility device is in good condition and you have packed all necessary essentials. Follow these steps to start your trip smoothly and confidently. First off, and I did this morning because I'm traveling in 10 days, arrange a service call with the wheelchair vendor. In Canada and the United States, airlines are held legally accountable to repair, replace, and or provide a loaner for your mobility device if it is deemed inoperable. However, the airline can also state that the problem was pre-existing before they took possession of it. This may happen more frequently with low-cost carriers. However, the airline can also state that the problem was pre-existing before they took possession of it. You can easily counter this argument by calling your vendor and arranging a service call 24 to 72 hours before your flight. Ask for an inspection and request a copy of that inspection in writing. Congratulations. You now have documented insurance in case the airline counters your claim. Number two, create a checklist and pack the essentials. Consider the climate at your destination, be it rain, snow, or extreme heat. Packing a t-shirt might be natural if you live in Florida, but it won't help you for that November trip to the Rocky Mountains. Create a checklist that includes your wheelchair, charger, medications, important documents, etc. In Canada, it's always cold. So if you're traveling from Vancouver to Florida, packing a sweater and a hoodie, it really depends on what time you're going. If you're going in July to Florida and you're packing a sweater and a hoodie and dressing for Calgary weather in November, you're going to be you're not going to have a lot of clothes to wear when you get to Florida. We'll put it that way. So let's pull the room. This is where you will find out if you or your travel agent planned everything properly, starting with your transportation to the airport. Is your transportation wheelchair accessible? It's 12. Here's a scenario. It's 12 a.m. Get your keyboards ready, guys. You've just arrived at your hotel in Seattle, that you booked through your travel agent. Unfortunately, the travel agent isn't open until 9 a.m. and you have a flight scheduled to leave at 7 a.m. When you arrive, the staff advised that there are no wheelchair accessible taxis available until 9 a.m. You're going to miss your flight if this doesn't get resolved. What do you do? So this is just a scenario. There's no right or wrong answers here, guys. This is just a hypothetical scenario. You've arrived at a hotel in Seattle that you booked through your travel agent. The travel agency doesn't open until 9 a.m. It's your day of departure. The flight is scheduled to leave at 7 a.m., so you can't contact your travel agent. So when you arrive, the staff advised there's no wheelchair taxis that'll get you to the airport by that time. And if you don't get to the airport by 7 a.m., you're going to miss your flight. Does anybody have any thoughts on what they would do in this kind of situation? You would try Uber. Good choice. They may not have wheelchair accessible vehicles available, but I mean, I've seen them in Seattle. Call the airline's disability office. That would be in the planning stages. I don't necessarily know what they'd be if they'd be able to help you on your date of departure. Anybody, any other ideas? All right, let's skip to the next slide here. Ride hailing. Good job, Alice. We're looking at an issue of private transportation and ride hailing. Yes. Yes, I fed you a story of getting to the airport. But the truth is, your destination's not the immediate problem. Instead, we're focused on the mode of transportation getting there. So, yes, it could be a long shot, but on occasion, try the local rideshare platforms like Uber and Lyft for any wheelchair accessible vehicles. Number two, check with hotel management. Some hotels may offer private wheelchair accessible shuttles. Generally, this should be assessed during the planning stage, but last minute arrangements can be made in certain emergency situations. Check with the concierge or hotel management. Number three, late night transit. SeaTac Airport, for example, is a massive international travel hub, and Google Maps may have insights on whether there is public transportation that will help you reach your destination. Depending on the conditions of your hotel booking, you may be able to arrange a refund either through the hotel directly or via the travel agency that booked it. Then make a trek for pulling an all-nighter at the airport. Not the best solution, but we don't want to miss that plane. Arrival at the airport. No matter who planned the trip, it is you who has to navigate to the airport, now facing extra challenges, especially with a mobility device. Here are key steps to make your airport experience smoother and less stressful. Number one, prepay for your luggage online. Checked baggage will almost always cost you more if you pay for it at the airport. If you are ever asked to pay for your mobility device, ask to speak to a supervisor because that is not right. Number two, go to the check-in counter on your arrival. You'll get an email 24 hours before your flight for online check-in. If you have a mobility device, visit the airport check-in counter to request a tag for your device and any necessary assistance. Verify your seating and device details. Plan to arrive at least 2 hours early for domestic flights and 3 hours early for international departure. Number three, proceed through security and customs. You might be able to save time in the lineup with TSA PreCheck or Nexus, but you will still need to hand off your bags, portable electronics, and receive a swab or pat-down. You cannot take your mobility device through the metal detector, but you can request a private screen. If you are going through customs, have your passport, tourist visa, and any vaccination records on hand if you're traveling with a service dog. Next, go to your departing gate. You're going to want to head to the gate before you do any of your shopping around the airport. You never know if the flight will begin boarding early or late. Advise the gate agent if you require an aisle chair and request to speak to the ramp supervisor when handing off your mobility device. A note about service dog and pet refuge areas. If you're traveling with a service dog, make sure you take them to the bathroom before your flight so there are no onboard incidents. Also, limit their water intake before the flight to lessen the chances of any onboard accidents. Use the bathroom at the airport. It's hard to predict if the flight will be turbulent, if the flight attendants will be busy with other passengers, or if another passenger is taking a long, long time in the bathroom. Your bladder will be less cooperative on an empty stomach, and grabbing a Starbucks before your flight won't help. Use the bathroom at the airport to avoid problems on board, as the onboard bathrooms are very small. Flight attendants may assist by escorting you to the bathroom. Flight attendants may assist by escorting you to the bathroom with the aisle chair, but they will not assist you while you are in the bathroom. At the airport, demonstrate proper handling of your wheelchair. You're the expert. Imagine trying to teach a toddler how to operate your mobility device. They're going to be impatient. They're going to be distracted. They'll likely break it if they play around with it, and they probably won't know how to handle it. Mark your wheelchair with safe handling zones. The base of your power wheelchair is load bearing. This is directly underneath the part you sit on. I mark my power chair with reflective tape, and I inform the ramp agents that if you must lift the wheelchair by hand, do it from these areas marked by tape. Otherwise, things might break. How do you prefer to be transferred? You need to be specific with airport personnel about how to lift you, such as under the arms and legs, and mention any sensitive areas. If using an aisle chair, ensure that armrests are correctly positioned and you are securely strapped in before moving. Confirm there's an aisle chair on board the plane before they take off and before they shut the door. Bring puppy pads on longer flights. This is another note about service dogs. Service dogs have to use the bathroom the same way we do. Try and limit their intake of food and water before the flight, and bring some puppy pads just in case they need to relieve themselves on board. Bring a chew toy. At 40,000 feet, our furry friends' ears pop too. Pack a chewy toy or treat to ease their ear pressure. It's their ticket to a comfy tail wagging flight. The benefits of bulkhead seats, and this is why you request a bulkhead seat during the planning stages. The airline would prefer the service dog to be resting underneath its seat in front of the passenger, which is not always suitable due to the larger nature of certain breeds and any gear they may be wearing. Airlines set aside the bulkhead seating area for travelers with disabilities. This is one of the many benefits of requesting the bulkhead seating area during the planning stage. Reporting damage to your wheelchair. All right, guys, get your keyboards ready. We're going back to our Orlando example. You've just arrived in Orlando. You're all ready for Disney, but to your dismay, the airline has delivered your mobility device back in 3 pieces. What do you do? Under this circumstance, guys, what would you do if you arrived at your destination and something was wrong with the way the airline brought back your power wheelchair? How would you feel? And what would you do in this immediate situation? Let's just give everybody this is a scenario. So let's just give everybody a moment here to share their ideas. Balkan seats have nothing. Inform the airlines and your wheelchair service provider. Yes, the bulkhead seats may not be for everybody. But the airline does reserve this section aside specifically for wheelchair users. The armrests do not lift up. But if you need the extra leg room, they are immensely beneficial for that reason. I would ask the airline to borrow me one, and document the situation. Excellent. Number one, don't panic. Contact the supervisor and ensure a staff member stays with you until this issue is resolved. Seating problems might be fixable with the right tools, and surely a busy airport has an engineer or an Allen wrench nearby, right? Number two, know how to access the connections. Generally, ramp agents shouldn't be disassembling a power wheelchair to unplug a cable, but if they do, it'll often be via the joystick, the controller, the battery box, or the primary fuse switch. You can instruct personnel to take a photo on your or their phone to help guide them. Number three, file a report at the baggage claim office. Once you're mobile again, head to the baggage claim and report the damage to the airline. If you're on a layover, only do this if you have at least 2 hours before your next flight. Otherwise, get a written statement from a supervisor and report the damage at your final destination. If you need help reaching baggage claim, request an escort. The airline's mediator, such as Scootaround, will then contact you to arrange immediate repairs or a rental unit. What to do if your wheelchair is lost? If your mobility device isn't returned to the jet bridge, stay calm. It's likely just been misplaced. Contact the supervisor and ensure a staff member stays with you until the issue is resolved. They can radio the responsible parties to locate your device. During a layover, focus on your connecting flight. Inform the ramp supervisor and flight attendants about your missing device and request an escort to the next gate. Keep any documents like baggage tags or ticket stubs at the next gate. Inform the airline and request the supervisor if the supervisor is still not with you. Your device is tagged and the airline must locate and return it. If necessary, they should provide a rental unit and possibly transportation or meal vouchers if the delay is significant. For accommodations, when checking into your hotel, it's essential to ensure that all your accessibility needs are met. Here are some steps to take during the check-in process to make your stay comfortable and hassle-free. Number one, request an escort to assist with your needs. If needed, ask the Bell Services desk or staff member to help with your luggage and adjust the phone or furniture for better maneuverability. Number two, report inaccessibility challenges immediately. Try to resolve inaccessibility by moving items around. Ensure there's enough space to maneuver between beds and that the bathroom is usable, including the toilet, the sink, and the shower. If a bench is problematic, ask for a portable one. For any accessibility issues in public spaces, ask what can be provided so you're not excluded from the experience. Number three, reputable hotels will make things right. If there's a problem, be upfront about it. What can the hotel do to make it right? Is the restaurant inaccessible? Can room service deliver to your room? Is the room inaccessible? Can the hotel provide you with a free upgrade? Don't settle for less. You're paying to be there. During your stay, diving into the delightful world of travel and dining, we often encounter unexpected challenges that test our adaptability and resourcefulness. Let's explore some common situations where a little assistance can go a long way. You can request assistance in restaurants or even getting into the pool. For our restaurant examples, who doesn't love a good buffet? The problem is that not everyone can carry a 5 to 10 pound plate of food back to their table. You may lack the strength or dexterity, but never fear. If you aren't traveling with a support person, just ask a staff member if they can provide you with assistance. Number two, speak to the front desk if you need assistance. Even with great planning, some details can get overlooked. Whether you're on land or at sea, the front desk can help arrange necessary accommodations. They can provide equipment or reach out to third-party vendors to meet your needs. This here, and I will move it so you can see the entire QR code, is the Wheelchair Travel Companion. Now, before I delve into the Wheelchair Travel Companion, I'd just like to clarify that this is not a platform endorsed or affiliated with Connectra, but rather a digital tool that we created to help travelers navigate these hurdles with their mobility device. So if you take your phone, that's what a QR code is. You open up your phone, you click the camera app, and you point it at the QR code on your screen. This will take you to the my profile on the Wheelchair Travel Companion. So here's what it is. Remember, ramp agents are busy, so the information you pass along at the gate may get lost during the loading process. What's more, nobody talks to ramp agents that are unloading your mobility device, and neither can you. This is where the Wheelchair Travel Companion comes in. We created a convenient digital profile that allows you to specify the proper handling instructions of your device, including the width, the height, the weight, battery type, and any short recordable reference videos that they may find helpful. You can then share that information with the ramp agents via a QR code and update it in real time. While this platform won't eliminate the risks entirely, it has been designed to help reduce them. You can access this tool by visiting A2Z.com, then selecting the Wheelchair Travel Companion from the navigation menu once you are logged in. Use this the next time you travel and see if it provides any benefit. Again, all you do is take your phone, open the camera app, point it at this QR code, and it will open it up on your phone. Thank you very much. That is it for the Accessible Travel 101. I hope you guys were able to find this helpful. Here is information on our how to contact us if you need help with any sort of travel bookings, if you have any accessibility questions, or if you want to check out our website. And that leaves it open for the Q&A. We've got 12 people in our chat session here. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Yes. Now, how do I open
Ask now?
Pardon me?
Time to ask now?
Yeah, time to ask for Q&A.
Okay, well, I just came back from 3 weeks in Sweden, from Vancouver, Sweden.
Yeah.
The first leg was 9.5 hours to Heathrow. And my issue was filling up my leg bag and emptying a leg bag after riding an aisle chair to an itty bitty washroom is near impossible. I was lucky enough not to have to empty it this time, but next time I should probably be drinking more and I need to empty it. Any ideas on what to do about emptying leg bags from your seat? That would be ideal.
Now, I haven't had that own experience for because I don't use a catheter. But
I can add to that.
Go for it.
Yeah, I can give you some info on. I travel with my husband. He brings a empty bottle. He just fills that up, and in our seat, and takes it to the bathroom and empties it.
I can add to that too. You
Go
can
for it.
use one of those. There's a pouch with a gel in it. It's a Celtic tea kit where you just empty the bag into the gel. It's like a bag, and then you seal it and throw it in the garbage.
Nice. Where would you get something like that?
Amazon.
Oh, cool. The gel in a pack. It's what, a pee bag or something?
Yeah, like it's a urine collection It's used for camping.
Okay,
Hmm.
cool. Amazon, that's good to know.
Do we have any other questions here?
I have a
Oh, I've got a question in chat. I am planning to purpose a joystick power add-on to my family member's manual wheelchair. Is the power add-on allowed to bring on board? That would be a question that you would need to ask the airline. So if there's something that you're uncertain about, um, if you're uncertain about the batteries, if you use any kind of ventilator, respiratory device, CPAP machines, if there's any electronics that you're uncertain about, contact the airline, say, this is what I need to bring, and they will tell you for certain whether you're allowed to bring it or not. If not, they will tell you, uh, for example, if you're bringing a CPAP machine, um, there are some airlines that won't allow you to bring a CPAP machine uh, if it has a plug-in. They'll allow you to bring it if it's a battery, if it runs on battery. So those are questions that you can ask the airline, and they'll be able to clarify what equipment is allowed and what equipment is not allowed. Don't go through central reservations with those questions. Most airlines have a disability desk. The people in central reservations often won't know the answer to that.
I have another question when it's
Yep.
possible.
Yeah.
Actually, I was kind of hoping we'd get some insight on travel to Scotland. I need to go to Scotland at some point, and I understand that Scotland, especially the Orkney Islands, which is where I want to go, I understand they're rather inaccessible. So I'm wondering what kind of mobility device I might be able to acquire either there or here and bring it with me or something.
There's a transportable power wheelchair called, my wife uses it. It's called an Easy Fold.
Uh,
And
that's probably like the travel buggy that I've got already.
it's basically, yeah, they're power wheelchairs that can be folded up and
Yeah,
stored. They weigh about between 30 to 50 pounds, and they run off lithium ion batteries.
yeah, that's what I took to Sweden with me. I bought it from Regency Medical. It's a travel buggy.
Yeah,
It comes from Edmonton anyway, 65 pounds. But yeah, that was great. Except it doesn't climb curbs.
no. So um, the difference between taking a heavy 300-pound wheelchair with you to your destination and a travel buggy is that, again, yes, a wheelchair won't be able to climb curbs. If you have a something that's lightweight, they may be able to lift you over the curb. It's not the safest route, but it's easier to do in a travel buggy than it is if I were to take a Permobil or a Invacare or a Quantum with me to an accessible place. And the other thing is that I also know somebody who lives in Scotland that I can call on if needed to provide clarity for those kind of questions. I've never been to Scotland myself, but I do have networking contacts that I could ask those questions to.
Okay. One thing that people might want to know was what I did bring with me was I brought two mobility devices. I brought a manual wheelchair and I brought the new travel buggy. The manual wheelchair is good for going over curbs, but then that means that somebody like me has to have somebody pushing me around all the time in a manual chair.
Yeah, and there are lighter weight. I don't know how heavy your travel buggy is, but there are they do range in weight. So if it's difficult to lift up I mean, it's difficult for me to lift up my wife's transportable power chair because it weighs 60 pounds. Um, there are lighter weight ones. They have different models that are more lightweight. They have different models that are heavier. The lighter weight ones are going to be easier to get over those curbs in the same manner that you might be able to with a manual wheelchair.
Yeah, they're unfortunately they're short. I looked at all of them. I spent months in researching that. So I ended up finding out that something called an Aerolux. It's about 30 pounds, but it has a much more limited range for the battery power.
Yeah,
Plus, it's got very small wheels, so it can't go over very big bumps at all. And it's a very rough ride.
yeah. There are limitations to getting a lighter weight tra- uh, transportable transport chair like that. Uh, the heavier ones are built better; they last longer. Uh, the lighter weight ones are specifically meant for that reason to be able to store and load things better. Um, so it's still you may just need one or two people with you to uh, to help lift you over curves in circumstances where you're running into accessibility challenges like that.
Um, just a comment. I actually I put a link in the chat for you were saying about the American Disability Act.
Yeah,
It's very very useful for Americans, and it doesn't help us much here. But BC is now working on a disability act. So I
yeah.
put a link in there in case anybody wants to look at it and provide some feedback so that they can draft it up.
So in the United yes, so in the United States, there's two federal acts that that uh, that help Americans. The Americans with Disabilities Act is more for traversing around the airport and public spaces and your accommodations. The Air Carrier Access Act is going to be the policies that the airline needs to be held accountable for. So if in situations where you're having issues on the plane or where issues come up where you are facing damage to your wheelchair, those are covered by the Air Carrier Access Act. So the Canada doesn't have an Americans with Disabilities Act. Canada has something called uh, the Accessible Canada Act. Uh,
Yes,
it's
it's the Accessible Canada Act.
yeah. So it's still very very new. So the way it works in the United States is that um, the federal government specifies what public spaces must accommodate for people with disabilities at a federal level. In Canada, we don't have that. The each um, the policies are set in place by communities and provincial governments. So that is why when you go to the United States, you might find that there's a lot more accessibility standards in the US than what you may be accustomed to in Canada.
The Accessible Canada Act only covers things that are federally regulated, but that does include air transportation.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I put something in the chat regarding hotel reservation. Just curious to see. I've noticed recently that many of the accessible rooms are on the upper price range of hotels because they're larger rooms.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah, I
curious
see
to
it.
see, yeah, just curious to see if there's any sort of price matching regulation that would say like the hotel has to offer accessible rooms at that kind of cheaper price range, even if the rooms are not accessible because they're not
So
accessible.
yeah, so the question is, are hotels legally mandated to match prices? Example, if a cheaper and accessible room is available, is a hotel legally mandated to match the lowest price for a pricier accessible room? No. If you were to check if you were to check into a hotel and you got a hotel room facing the parking lot and it was a studio and they had another studio in the building with accessible accommodations facing the mountains and the lake and it had an extra bed in it. It was could be on club level. They're going to charge you for the difference in price. If you are if you have a room, for example, that is accessible facing the parking lot, um, and you have a room that's inaccessible facing the parking lot, maybe the accessible room has two beds and is a little more spacious. They may have a similar pricing structure, but they're going to charge you for what you're getting in the room.
So there's no legal requirement for them to either offer accessible rooms at the lowest price range, or if they don't, to offer the accessible rooms at that price range.
They won't. They won't lower. They won't give you a price match if your non-accessible room is $250 and your accessible room is $300. In that case, I would start looking for. Uh, I would price compare with other hotels. See if there's another hotel, unless you're getting like loyalty rewards with a specific hotel that you're applying for. Um, I would check. I would price compare with other hotels in the immediate area and just see if what they're offering in terms of their price structures.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? I am planning a I got. Yeah, actually, I got that one already. I'm planning a purpose. Yeah, we got that question. Does anybody else have any more questions?
I've got a comment that might be some use. We were in Norway as well, and I have to say that we went for a budget hotel in Bergen, and the budget hotel is called City Box, and their accessible room was wow, grab bars everywhere, a total roll-in shower, great big spaces. It was excellent. It just doesn't have a TV and it doesn't have air conditioning.
Norway has some of the best accessibility standards in the world.
Oh, and the trains worked out very well too. We rode trains all over the place. Oh,
Yeah.
and the city trams and the buses. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they've got some of the best accessibility standards in the world. So I mean, it's will rival the ADA. So it's so yeah, that's why a lot of the spaces and transportation there are easily wheelchair friendly. Do we got anybody else that has any more questions here? Are we good? All right. Kasura, we can take it. You can take it over.
Okay, guys, this was really nice. And you put your email, everything, right? Yeah. So if anybody wants, they can contact you. Yeah.
Pardon me?
No, your email is here. So anybody can contact you. Yeah. If they need to.
Yeah.
Hi, Kelsey.
Hi, Richard.
See you later. Thank you.
Bye, guys.